Hey, what's up? Welcome to another episode of the Buoy Report. I got a really fun one. It's a really good friend of mine, Pio Marasco. Say that slowly. Pio Marasco. He's from Naples, Italy, but he found his way to Maui about 20 years ago when he was 18. One part mad scientist, one part entrepreneur, one part just amazing human. He's become a very dear friend of mine. He is the founder of this company right here, Maui Fin Company. You see these fins? Probably all my greatest and biggest waves of the last decade or more have been caught on his fins, and I trust him with my life. These are custom sets. This one set right here, this design, I've been putting in all my boards. It's the Kai Lenny big wave set, but they work insane on small waves as well. A little different deposit, but this is my big wave set right here. But he's an amazing human. This was a fun one. It's recorded about a year ago, and since then he's been going through some health issues, and I just wanted to spread the word. There is a GoFundMe link to support his cause and journey of fighting this battle. Please hit that link, support what you can, much appreciated. Hope you enjoy. Aloha. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the Buoy Report podcast, where we are documenting waves of energy, from big waves to renewable energy waves, thought waves, and mind waves. Hope you enjoy. Aloha. Carry on. The Matrix is watching.
The Matrix is, yeah, we're screwed.
Brother, thank you for coming up here, making
Thank
the
you,
drive.
Sean.
So, do me a favor. Give me
Yes.
for the story and everything, but just give me a proper introduction. Say your name, spell it for me, so we know exactly.
Pio Marasco, Pio,
Okay.
religious name.
Okay.
And Marasco, Marasco. I'm an MFC guy, Maui Fin Company. I design fins.
Yep.
Surfing, windsurfing accessories. I design hydrofoils. I work with so many different companies and athletes. And I'm in Maui since the end of '89, beginning of 1990. I was 18 years old when I moved here. Yeah.
So, I guess let's start with the origin story. So Maui's such a melting pot as it is, right?
Yeah.
It's just you never knew who you're going to meet walking down the street.
Yep.
Some Russian gangsters to some models to the craziest hippie raver DJ to
Yep.
the Kai Lennys and the athletes
Yep.
and Laird. And so, what's a dude from Napoli doing?
I came here because I wanted to become a professional surfer, a windsurfer, like everybody's dream.
Yeah.
And I came here because I wanted to do that. And I just, my idea was like, oh, I'm going to be there for 6 months. And then I'm still here. That's a real story. And my perseverance and stuff. I mean, when I came here, I started looking for jobs and everything. And, luckily the MFC, the Maui Fin Company people they were like, okay, yeah, start sweeping the floor.
Amazing.
And that's, what I started doing, went in there and started sweeping the floor and putting, fins that they were manufacturing here in plastic bags.
Okay.
They were still plastic at the time, and boxes, and organizing the shipments. And that's how I started it. That's how my whole life started.
Sick.
I mean, I wasn't like, oh, I'm going to do this, but that's what the universe directed me to. And I'm still here.
Did I ever tell you my first job was foiling fins?
No.
My first little venture of entrepreneurship was foiling fins.
No way.
So Roger got me into it. Basically, when the FCS first came out, FCS came out, we got these handmade Japanese foiled fiberglass fins. They were so much better than when the FCS were just crap plastic.
Yeah, the plastic one, yeah.
And so we're trying to figure it out. And then Roger showed me how to foil it, and we were laying up these panels and cutting them out and just taking them. I would just hand foil them myself, and I had this little booth that I'd put my thing on, just get
I know the feeling.
And just get super itchy. Like it would still come through like 3 masks, and like I'd have the whole suit, and I could just feel it in my teeth.
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty crazy how fiberglass and same. We were laminating panels. We were like doing scrubbing the fins with wood template or plastic template, and then cut them with a bandsaw.
Yep.
Do the US base or do the tabs at the time, or or any type of, glass-ons that we were doing for other brands and foiling it by hands. I was running at 7 fins a day, an hour, 7, 8 an hour when I got really good.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy that teach me was riding like a 12 fins an hour. It was a monster.
Nice.
And I will always thank him. He really teach me a lot. Scott was his name, and he teach me a lot about fins, and that's where I learned him from.
Yep, I couldn't get past the mass production side of things.
Oh yeah. Well, we're at a certain time, just for windsurfing, we were making 60, 70 fins a day, just windsurfing, and then all the glass. It was crazy. The beginning of the 90s.
Wow.
So for a couple of years, I was just like sanding and cutting and doing stuff, and then
Okay.
Yeah, in 94 became, I went in 50%, and 96, basically I took over completely. He was really tired.
Okay.
And it really helped into the, the transactional, like of him leaving.
Okay.
Like, hey, you should do it. You should take it. You're passionate enough that I think the company will be in good hands.
Busy.
Yeah.
Very cool. I remember seeing those on the wall even back then though.
Oh, yeah.
So with making fins, when did you really get down to the science of it? Like, did you have to get down to
At the beginning was...
Because there's a big hydrodynamic
yeah.
side of it. Like, you're basically making an airplane wing, right? And the test pilots back in the day had to learn the hard way and what blew up and what didn't. And anybody that surfs well knows a bad pair of fins from when they try them out.
Yeah. At the beginning, we didn't know much. It was a lot, the internet wasn't even out.
Yep.
So there was books. I remember I had these, I still have these books actually,
yep.
from back in the day, theory of the wing sections and hydrodynamics and aerodynamics. Because I'm not an engineer.
Yep.
I didn't study for that. I was playing football, actually soccer when I was, before.
Remember, we're going to come back to that because I want some
some Napoli stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. I want some Napoli football stories.
And so I learned everything on the fly.
Yep.
So I want to do this. How am I going to do that? So we had, I had a book with all the NACA foil section, and I had the Epler book. All these foil sections that already existed, and trying to understand the coefficient of lift and drag, and what was the best for the fins. And we had, we're designing wood templates, to make sure. And I remember Scott coming in and just check my foils. Like, you got to fix here, you got to fix there, because everything was made by hand. Until in 92, we started to have access to 1992 to a CNC machine.
Yep.
There was a German guy up here. Actually, it was in Kula. And he had this small techno machine, this kind of very prehistoric thing at the time, and there was like a DOS system working. He was a real engineer. And we started making fins with him just for slalom and racing. And that's where, my fin companies started to be like, oh, wow, they're making computer fins. Mm-hmm. But we're still finishing the fins by hand.
Yep.
So that's where, started to get more into the science, more to understanding, oh, this is going to be draggy, this is going to have too much lift. Also the testing with all the athletes at the time for windsurfing and the testing for surfing, because I was working a lot with, Kalama and all that, until 2000, 2002,
Yep.
So there was a lot of testing, on big waves for surfing and on, windsurfing, racing, this was racing. They were already doing 30 knots at a time. And for us, now they're doing 50, windsurfing, racing.
Are they doing that with foils though?
No, I'm talking just normal windsurfing.
Wow.
The record is 52. Okay. So, when they were slalom racing before, it was 30. Now they go on the 40, 42, they're fast. Mm-hmm. So there was a lot to learn because, we also had a responsibility, of them winning or crashing or, if there was a cavitation happening, there was some responsibility from our side,
Man, there's nothing worse than I've had some of those old fins when they start cavitating.
Yeah.
And I can't imagine the old test pilots. Okay, we have to go to Jaws. We're going to go 40 miles an hour down a wave.
Yeah.
And you feel the board just pushing out of the water.
Yeah.
Or there's a couple different ones. Explain to me what a true cavitation is. Because there's a couple that there's the lift one, and then there's the one your tail just starts going.
The cavitation happened that there is a kind of an air, let's call it air cushion in between the fins and the water.
Yep. And
so there is all these bubbles it creates. So the fin just lose traction, lose attachment to the water. And that's where you kind of start sliding. The good thing is that, that cavitation is created by, different things the water is not dense at that time, or there is some white water. You experience, like when you go down, there is, a little bit of foam. It's really easy to cavitate. It's something that when you see in front of you over the way, you're like, okay, let's see what's going to happen now, So that's the main thing. And then there is other things, there is, for example, the water. Some people go surfing, like they have a quad and they leave they have a five boxes board. And they use a quad and they leave the center fin just open. And you pretend to go 40 miles an hour or 30 or 35.
That's not going to affect.
Come on, what I mean? It's going to create a lot of trouble. A lot. You might don't feel it, or you might think that it's not going to create it, but sooner or later, when it's going to hit, it's going to be too late because you're going to be in the water already. So you have that, which is the main cavitation. That happens, for windsurfing, happen big waves, small waves everywhere. And then there is, the other one that I think it comes from the way people rides, and people makes mistakes and they blame it on the equipment, and when the rail, for example, is not really hooked up in your turn and you rely a lot on the fin, they just gonna cavitate because they can't handle all that pressure, from the surfer or windsurfer or the big wave rider or whatever it is. So there is a couple of things that need to be worked out. I'm not blaming the athletes, but I'm just saying there is two ways I see it.
Gotcha.
And I can see it, especially on videos and stuff. And I'm like, study a lot of stuff when Kai rides or Ian or other riders I work with, especially on big waves or windsurfing with Brausinho and I can see it. I can really read it. I'm like, ooh, it's gonna be sketchy. But sometimes they pull it off, sometimes they don't. So.
Yeah, I always think that those guys thank you very much for making all those mistakes before the old, just like going out there at Jaws on the old 7.6 tow boards with glass on fins and pointed the wrong way with a leash and no flotation and and now that we come up, we're like, oh yeah, like I came, everything's kind of learned here. This is the board you need. These are the fins you need.
I should have brought you some fins because I have a collection of all the towing fins. I was making Double D. With Dave Willard, and sometimes there was a moment that they were going on a twin fin. And I think you remember that. I mean, very narrow and flexy twin fins.
So Austin rode the last year's big swell. He rode Kalama's old board that was a twin fin. He busted out from under the house.
He probably had the same fins because I know that Dave has a few.
And that's old windsurfing theory, right? Straight.
Yeah. No, the twin fins, they had a lot of tip. The tip was really narrow and was really flexy. Dave wanted it.
Okay.
At the time, and I was blown away because I'm like, okay, are you sure? Because I gotta confess this. I've been having this stuff. I don't want to call it anxiety, but making these things for these guys, they go that amount of wave. I feel extremely responsible because people say, oh yeah, it's just a fin. I'm like, yeah, for me, the fins are at least 50% of your boards, especially in conditions that massive and that extreme, and can create a lot of problem, and people can really get hurt. It's like your tires in a race car. You want to go in a Formula One car at 350 kilometers an hour, you have bad tires, you're in trouble. And that's, I feel, extremely responsible, and I really take my time. So sometimes there's some designs or some outlines that they come with me. I was like, we should do this. And I kind of look at them, I'm like, and I get this feeling of like responsibility.
100%. I could see that. That makes sense.
Yeah. Sometimes, for example, Kai get hurt one time, or the other guy get hurt, and you always feel, like, oh my God, because it's something happened. When I went down last winter on that way, I had that new set, and I actually went back and I was like trying to find. I was like, what did I do wrong? Everything. It was just the wave at the end of the day, and it just had so much chop. And I was like, but the one I was like, the fins were too soft. Like there's too much flex on them. And I was like grabbing it. I was like, no. But you're using the new ones, the new ones, the one we've been doing for.
It was a new set you gave me. It was a custom set that you gave me.
Oh, okay. So it's not all the new concept. I mean, it's new concept. It's a concept we've been doing for about 7 years.
It was the old G10, but it was actually the old G10 thruster. Like I don't.
Oh, a thruster one.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought you were on a quad.
No.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
The thrusters one the same. Yeah, I'm working with Ian and Kai with a little bit more on a thrusters for different way. Kai's using the thruster on the tow board. A few times. I mean, and I think that before it wasn't possible because the level in the last 5 years got so really high, and it's going to keep improving. So before it was all quads because it's more stable and it's faster. You get out of the situation. Now they start turning, getting to the pocket, and the thruster is helping because they actually got they improved all that level. They got so much better.
I feel like the thruster, especially on that board that I have, and then my uncle kind of
Yeah.
verified it for me, but like, because the way I sit on that board, you ride it really back. Your foot's only a couple inches back off the tail, and you're right over that middle fin.
Yeah.
And it's so bumpy, and that's what's engaging. I swear that last 6 inches is the big fin in the back, and you're just...
Well, because you're using a big, the center
it's a big
is
center fin, 2 smaller little ones up front.
There's a few guys doing that.
And I've had it for
Chumbo's
10 years,
doing that.
10, 15 years now.
I think Kyle was telling me to look, Chumbo's doing that, Twig is doing that. A few guys are doing that, I think.
And that was the original old toe sets that Double D guys had.
Oh, yeah.
And so
I saw, we made some fins. I made some fins for Kai that, the center was bigger. It's just not his style. Mm-hmm. I think it works.
Yeah.
But I think it's also.
Yeah, I'm not trying to do 360s like him.
Yeah, no, but I mean, I think it works because, it makes a lot of sense. It's very close to what we do in windsurfing at that speed,
Yeah.
So I think, because a lot of things that we do with MFC and myself and the riders, I mix all the sports together. Hydrofoils, windsurfing, surfing. That's how we came out with the new quad, where our rear fins are bigger than the front. That was 2014, 2013. We started doing these things with Kai, and we came along to these things because it comes straight from windsurfing. Mm-hmm. And now it's classified as a trend. People is like, oh yeah, it's a trend. I'm like, no, it's not a trend. This is a reality that comes from another sport.
Yep.
Obviously, the other sport, the fins are at 0 degrees. They're symmetrical. Yep. With surfing at big waves, you need certain angle or toe or whatever how the board is, and you need asymmetrical foils or symmetrical. Depends how, what waves you're riding. If it's Nazare, if it's Peahi, if it's Mavericks. So, but that concept, it came out, and I think it's the way.
I told you the setup I used in Fiji this year, right?
No.
So the one really good wave I got in May, that big long ass barrel, full speed.
Yeah, that was a nice barrel.
And I was frothing to get out that morning to set up in the boat, and I switched it, and I went to smack my front fins, the bigger. So I had the gray and black, the old ones.
Oh yeah. The classic quads.
The classic quads with the square tips.
Yeah, the front are a little bigger.
So the bigger one, I went to hit it, and I was rushing. And I smacked it, and the way I hit it, I just broke the little the future little tab in the back of the fin off, and I was like, oh my god, I'm in the boat. And the only other set of fins I had was the colorful rainbow quad set, the off the rack ones, with the smaller fins and the big fins.
Yeah, that's the big fins in the rear.
Yeah. And so I just took the rear ones and I put them in. So I just had 2 small fins, and I just ran that all day long.
Why didn't you use the whole set?
The other ones were just in the boat, board already, and I was just like, well, I just mix and match, but I just had those 2.
Well, that's what we're doing now. We're using the normal that set into the in normal waves.
Yeah.
To make it feel more like a thrusters. And this has been going on for 3-4 years, and now I think we got in tune with the boards that Keith is making. So I think we made a massive step forward in the last 4 or 5 months. Okay. Which is really, really exciting because opening another door for us. Because it's putting all this, putting all the sports together. Yeah. And get the speed and get the turn and the pivot that you have with the thrusters, with the quad that was never possible because of the bigger front fin.
Yeah.
So the big waves, now is giving back to the smaller wave people. So we're really working hard on that, trying to release it as soon as possible.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That little space down there at Puello is so interesting. Of like, it's the old cannery, right? It's like it's already lived so many lives already, and so they've turned this old.
I've been there 32 years, just in that cannery every day.
that little pineapple cannery in Haiku, and now it's like this hub of creativity it's such a nexus point of ideas and creativity and different athletes and people from all over the world, right? How many flags are flying in any given day down there?
Honestly,
between all the shapers, the carpenters, throwing Rama's music studio in the back, playing music and DJs and art studios and shaping machines and glass rooms, and
that cannery saw a lot of things. I think from the day that it was built, it was in 1900 or something, or maybe earlier. I don't remember, but
there's been some characters coming through there.
Oh yeah, I'm probably one of them. I probably say that there's a lot of characters, and if you ask someone else, it's like, oh yeah, there's that guy Pio. I did basically all almost every unit from 1990 that I was there. And there's been, Jimmy Lewis was there in
Yes.
front. And then John DV, and, we're doing the Allen Unique boards and, surfboards and windsurf boards. And, I moved from that, then I moved to Unit 24, which is more in the hall. And then in 2001, I moved in the front with the Quattro and Goya boys, KT and Keith. And so I'm in the front since 2001, we put all our effort together, and that's, what came, it's pretty good because, also the guys they're very passionate, and I like to work this way. They're so passionate, and they created something unique, and I'm grateful to, be able to, work with them.
Especially the talent that walks through that door right now.
It's incredible. And the same, there is Sean, Sean Adonis has been there forever, it's a friend of mine from 30 years, amazing, creative being.
He's an artist.
He's amazing, it might take a bit to make boards, but, love you, Sean, but, but he's amazing. The stuff that he does is just, I look at his boards and I'm really, how do you say, I fell in love with it, the way he, the time he's spending there. And there is Danny Spartan in the back, making foils and fins and forever. Tectonics. There is.
Who else has been there? Angulo was there.
Oh yeah,
the Angulo days.
Was there.
Now we got Judd.
Judd Law was there. There's cafes. Mickey Eskimo.
Oh yes, don't forget about that artist.
Forget that one. And then we got the hardware store.
Yes,
which is kind of brings a completely different crowd. That they come and just peeping in the shop. What is this?
No, but if you go over there, it's a craftsman store though. They're selling for those artists and craftsmen that work in there.
Actually, it's true. Yeah, you have a very good point.
They have a very specialty hardware store.
And for us, it's amazing because it's three people, the Quattro Goya and Keith and the KT and myself, MFC. There's a huge creative energy. Keith, he comes up with some things out of this world. Francisco is completely somewhere else. Sometimes I'm doing things and maybe I can't make it happen. And he just walks by. I'm like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm doing that. I'm trying to fix this since a long time. And it's like, oh, no, you just do this and that. And he keep walking away. I'm like, what?
Because those guys are designing sails over there as well.
Oh, yeah. They're doing sails. They're doing windsurf boards. They're doing surfboards. They're doing foil boards. They're coming up with their own foil line. It's amazing, it's a... And the thing is, I'm not for the competition.
Yep.
I'm for the collaboration and cooperation. I'm that type of human being.
Yep.
Because the competitions, you spend so much energy talking about energy. He's doing this and that. I want to do things that I like to do and I want to do. I don't want to do things just because someone else is doing something. Or I never did a kite product. Not because I don't like kiting, kite surfing. I think it's an amazing sport. I was never drawn to it. And I liked it. I can do it. But so I never had the passion for it. So I never done it, because I like to do things that I feel immersed into it, and with these guys, that's what it is. They're all very passionate. So I'm very grateful. And that's, back to the energy. I think there is a lot of, the energy coming together.
Throwing the vibrations are coming up the valley from Jaws on those big days. You can hear it on a quiet day. It's just
here from my house.
Boom.
Yeah, it's crazy. Boom. No, and plus all the rocks coming.
Yeah.
Especially at night from Ulumala from my house.
Let's talk about foiling.
Yes.
The evolution of foiling. So you've been pretty much right in the thick of it not from the get-go, but you're in it now.
Well, the beginning, we're making the wings.
Yes.
For the air, you remember the air chair?
Yes.
When Laird and Dave and everybody was like, "Yeah, we're gonna go foil." They bought this air chair, the strut and fuselage, and we're making the front wings out of G10. There was no angle of attack. There was just a flat thing. They were getting towed with bindings. I remember I went a couple of times. I'm like, "That's it. You guys are crazy."
Yeah.
Because that thing was so heavy, you had to put a life jacket on because otherwise, going down, you had snowboard binding. Booth.
Just asking her. I can't believe nobody broke their legs back then.
I can't believe it. I went twice, and I'm like, no, this is really something really good. And plus something you can really, end up like a mafia, with your cement shoes. and just like go down the water, So making that G10 wings, was a good experience. They were basically, we were making bigger fins.
Yeah.
That's what we were making. We didn't know anything. It was working.
Yeah.
And then, it kind of like, it was very complicated. So it went down a bit, it wasn't trendy. People, they felt it's hard.
Yeah.
Even if Laird was flying like crazy and Dave the same and everybody else. And then he came back when Kai showed up with that, the video of him
Going down the coast.
With
I was working that day.
Yeah.
And I think he posted it on Facebook or whatever. I kept the browser on that day.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, I just kept it minimized because I was watching the views go up.
Oh,
they're just going up
Yeah.
and up. It was insane. Like it was insane to watch a viral video count go up in real time. Because I was just working and I just kept like refreshing. I'm like, oh my God, what's it up to now? Yeah.
It was pretty insane. And I think that's what he showed the world what the world thought was not possible, and traveling with the energy of the ocean, big foil, big board, whatever it is, but he made it happen. It was actually, he did a long run.
Yeah.
So from there, I remember I was in Asia making, developing fins and developing the production line in Thailand. And I saw this thing and I'm like, I came in the comments, what are you doing? Oh yeah, it's incredible. You have to make foils. I'm like, no, I don't want to make foils. We have to make foils. I don't want to make foils. Because I knew, I knew how complicated, I don't want to say complicated, but like time consuming and intense was going to become like it is today.
Yeah. There's so many freaking variables involved. And now you had to figure out each one of those variables.
So I knew about the investment and I knew about, the softwares that we had to get through. And I knew about how demanding the things was going to be, especially working close with someone like Kai, and so I kind of, I found myself into the hurricane and I always did everything I could for Kai and his family and whatever, was possible for me to do, obviously. Sometimes also pushing like I did with the foils. So I started it, and then things just came along. Working together with the hydrofoil company, with Ridge and Carlos, that they come up with some amazing designs. It was crazy. The first 3-4 years, I couldn't even like this, just the setup and the design, and because you can design a great foil, but you have to put it into production, which
there's two different things right there. If you're doing a custom F1 for a racetrack,
great.
Going
into the production where manufacturers were not, they were ready because they were making other stuff. But, there is the conflict, how you think and how the things should be done and how the things should be done.
I wonder if actually that's the niche, custom foils.
Yeah, you're going to make a foil a month. Or
just charge a mint because it seems like the guys.
Twice. There is people that do it. There's a couple of companies that do it. There's a company in Europe called Chubanga. It's an Italian company. They make very nice foils. Mm-hmm. They're Olympic class for kiting, and there's Mike's Lab that does it in the U.S. He's amazing. There's a lot of
so guys are on it already.
Yeah, they're on already. It's just it takes time.
Yeah.
And then you're gonna charge 5,000, 6,000, 4,500. I mean, you're gonna make an amazing piece. But it's never gonna be a production animal.
Yeah.
And you're gonna end up doing everything by yourself, because me too was like when I make custom fins and somebody else touch the fins, I'm like, okay, now you go and you fix it because you have that type of touch. Mm-hmm. You're passionate about your products.
Let's hold that. We're gonna come back to the foils.
Yeah.
Talk about touching it, because Kai brought it up to me and I had no idea. Then you just rebought it. When you touch a foil, on the guys at race days, they won't let anybody touch your foil, and this is. And tell me why.
The main thing is the grease that you have in your hand.
Yeah, it'll create.
Everything is greasy.
Yeah.
So this happened before. Always with the windsurfing racing.
Yeah.
Where Olympic class or people that with the races they were doing slalom and cross racing back in the day or still today, they take the board, they wet sand the fin, and they just go straight into the water without touching it, and they do the same with America's Cup boats and hydrofoils, right now. And it makes, total sense, because what happened, the grease, you're flying or on the fins you're going, and basically the water doesn't stick. So it creates that air.
Little inconsistent spot.
consistent spot. So you reach certain speed that you cavitate or you just stall, or there is so many, different things that can happen. If you cavitate, you're going to spin out, you're going to, stall and fall down, or on the fins, it's going to happen that, you're going to, probably, spin out and, your tail is going to go. There's several factors that, can put you in trouble or it can make you lose a race. But, the America's Cup boats, they come up, they store them at night. In the morning before they come in, there's a, wet sanding of all the entire boat with the foils now and everything, boom, it goes straight into the water.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. I mean, at the beginning, when they were doing it with racing in the 90s, I was like, you guys are crazy. But then I was like, buy the book.
I saw Laird doing it back in the day on his towboards.
Yeah.
In the water. He had a wet sander on the jet ski. On a big ass day, he had his little thing. He hit the whole bottom, hit the fins, throw it in the water, go.
Yeah. It makes, and it's, at that level, I think you have to do it. You put your life at risk, you got to win a race.
I think those were actually metal fins too.
I was doing that.
You made those aluminum fins, huh?
I pulled them up yesterday because I was like in a box looking for old prototypes and I just saw them. Yeah, Dave came up with a couple of designs. One was called the Bullet and one was called the Bomb. The Bomb was for Peahi and the Bullet was more for, or the opposite, I don't remember, for outer specs, more of a like softer wave. And we're making out of aluminum plate. Because we could go thin. We didn't have all this money and technologies here in Hawaii. I mean, we could do it, but we're not ready. What we do now.
Because aluminum was soft enough for the CNC machine.
For the CNC, yeah, but it was super stiff, so we could go really thin until someone got really hurt. And I was like, that's it. FCS was buying it from us. We were making it for FCS. I mean, I did a lot of design for FCS from 2001 to 2005. And one was, this stuff when, and selling, they were selling it to people on Oahu.
That was the one that got Brett.
Brett got hurt, yeah. Oof. That was gnarly. I was like, that's back towards what I was saying before. I'm like, it's a big responsibility.
Yes.
People dies. I mean, these things, sorry I don't have them because I would love to show you this. They're basically knives under your board.
Yeah.
It's this.
I mean, they already are. Come on. Some of those.
They already are. Some fins that
I've actually, no offense, I've actually softened some of the fins you've given me.
You know how many times I cut my fingers?
Yeah.
But with Kai, I can't. That's what, because I say, hey, do you, it's like, I want it like this. The one time Max said, when he got an accident, do you remember when he cut his
toe? Yeah.
Yeah.
He actually cut his toe down the middle.
Yeah.
Right?
I was like, dude, it's like, you know what, Pio? I was like, man, I'm sorry. I told you I don't have to make fins that sharp. And I was like, no. If it wasn't sharp, I probably would have broke my foot because it wouldn't slice through. He said like this, I have a few stitches. It's going to be a couple of weeks, but if I break my foot, it's 3 months. So I just look at the positive things that happened to me. And I was like, okay. Okay. Thank you. It's pretty, it was pretty intense, when I heard that, because I remember he got pulled up with a helicopter and I was like,
it was the most best photo ever. It's like my dad holding him and he's like getting in, there's just a pile of blood dropping down. He's like getting off and like hand on my dad's head or shoulder or something, trying to get into the jet ski.
Your dad. Legend. He kicked me out of Laperouse when I was a kid.
Did you deserve it?
Probably. In a good way. It was nice though.
Okay.
It was in an aggressive way, It's just funny.
Old school days.
Yeah, I was like, I think you should go back. I think so. I'm sorry.
Oh my God.
Very funny.
Oh, if you only see how many, if you only can see how many windsurfers are down there now.
Oh, in Laperouse?
Yeah.
I was surfing actually. I wasn't surfing. No. It's not that. I think he saw that I wasn't, really good, and it was like, oh, maybe you should. It was like, all right, I know who you are. I accepted it.
I know nothing, so.
I never, we joke about it.
Yeah.
I never,
now he's hitting you up for fins.
Yeah. No. Oh, that's what happened, at the beginning. Being a windsurfer before, there was this thing like, between surfing and windsurfing in Hawaii, But then they were coming up and getting fins. I was like, oh, there's this guy here, the windsurfer. Like, hey, I'm here. How can I help you? It was fun.
Yeah.
It's good times.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Well, I just ordered a board from a windsurfer, so it's okay. I got a KT coming.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Nice.
I wanted to try one of his tow boards. Just
cool.
They're looking.
How big you made it? 5'11"?
Like 5'11", 6'0". Basically like a medium big wave tow board.
Right.
Like not
Not massive.
Not for the biggest day of the year.
Yeah.
That's kind of.
Well, he made a couple foil boards for your uncle.
He just told me that too. He's like, "Oh, look, that's pretty funny. You came walking in here because I just got off the phone with him yesterday."
Yeah. It was good. Because I look at the boards, I'm like, "This is Jerry's boards?" And he's like, "Yeah." I was like, because he made these graphics and stuff.
Yep.
That's how I recognize him. So it's pretty cool. Yep.
So let's do a little pivot just for history. Let's talk about Napoli. You were a diehard Napoli soccer fan.
Yep.
I love sending you when they win little videos of him.
Yeah.
And you've really schooled me on the essence of what it is. And one of these days I'm going to get over there and watch one of these games. It's a bucket list goal to go.
I can wait.
So,
last year was the year. Let's see if it happens again.
Did they party too hard this year? They're looking kind of.
It's pretty crazy. You know, it was about, they won the tournament, so the championship. So it was about a couple months of, because they won really early.
Yeah.
Like, almost 7 or 6 Sundays before, or 8. I don't remember, something like that, like 20 points. So.
Come on, the Champions League slipped through their fingers though.
Yeah. Well, that's.
What is more important? What is more important to you? The league? Is it La Liga? La Liga.
Champions League is important, but the league is important because, it's not just football.
Okay.
It's confrontations, with the north of Italy.
Gotcha.
Because Italy, everybody thinks, it's such an old country. It is. The land is old, but Italy got together, 150 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
We got a unity of the country, so we still speak our own languages. We still, I don't want to say don't like each other. We like each other, but we still have different food and different culture, different way of living. The south to the center to the north. Tuscany. There was the Vatican State. There was the, Naples was Kingdom of the Two Sicilies.
Yep.
We had Spanish dominations. And so we have our own language.
Yep.
It's been recognized actually by the UNESCO. In Venice they have their own language. In Sardinia they have their own language. So it's pretty wild.
Okay.
So there is also that behind all, the football thing that, the South has always been, I don't want to say, there's always this separation,
Yep.
when we win,
Yep.
we just straight to their face,
Yep.
and they don't like it. And I grew up with football since I'm a kid. I play professional. I played with Naples a couple of years with the under 18, and then when I came here at 18 years old, because I had to stop for 1 year for some issues that I had. Before there was attorneys that they own you, so I was a little bit of a hothead.
Yep.
Let's say, call it this way.
Yep.
So I was just put it on hold for 8 months. That's the first year I came here. And actually, I started playing here, and they wanted to bring me to Oregon. I'm like, I don't want to play anymore. I want to be here. Oh, you can play in the mainland. I'm like, I don't want to play. I love it, but and then I came back and I started playing again. And the city lives the football.
Yes.
Breathe, and it's the main thing. If the Napoli does well, the city's happy. If the Napoli doesn't do well, the city is dark. It gets darker.
Yep. Did you live there in the Maradona days?
Yeah. Yeah. We were in the under 18. Maradona was in the first team. So we used to see him, on the Thursdays. Because on the Thursdays we're on the same field, the training. Then during the week we're training on another field.
No shit.
Yeah. So it was,
you walked on the same pitch.
Well, same pitch. He comes with the Ferrari, the Testarossa, with his, So it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. I never interact but it's there. Some friends of mine, they really made it. They played the first team and stuff. But my last year I was. A little bit, there was a lot of things happening, and the fact that you grew up in a certain environment and your character is a little tense at the time, you could get in trouble, and that's the thing that kind of slowed me down a bit. And also the fact that I was getting a little tired of the environment, it's a very challenging city. Everything is, the energy, talking about energy, it's very intense. Every time there is people coming from here or that friends of mine from Maui or from Hawaii or from anywhere in the world, when they arrive there after a couple of days, it's like, wow, this is intense. The way people just interact with each other, the way the city is, because the city sits on volcanoes. So we have the Vesuvio, then we have all the Campi Flegrei, which is, since January 1st, we have 5,000 earthquakes.
So you moved from one volcano to the next.
Yeah. I think I was drawn here. You know what I mean? I was drawn here. So these volcanoes, right now, everything is moving on the right side. And then there is a couple islands there that also there's another volcano that, is asleep, they say, but it's, there's movement.
Yeah.
So the city is extremely energetic. We sit on sulfuric land. The wine is different, the food is different, everything is just tastes different.
Yeah, they like to put pineapple on pizzas over there.
Yeah, right. I remember that thing you sent me. I was like,
there's this video, so just for you guys watching.
No,
It's a prank in Napoli where the pizza delivery guy puts pineapple on the pizza and delivers it, and people are ready to fight the guy.
There's a lady.
What is this?
There's a lady coming out there who was going to beat him up.
Yeah.
And just
throwing it back in the face. This is sacrilegious.
Imagine there's a couple places in Naples that you only have two types of pizza. You don't even order. You sit down, you enter, you have a margherita and marinara, and that's it. The guy comes out of the kitchen, is like, who wants this? Who wants that? Yeah, me. That's it. Two pizzas, no ordering. There's a lot of.
It ain't American style.
A lot of restaurants there's no menus.
Yep.
You get in there and they tell you what they have that day. But I see a lot of similarity between Naples and Hawaii. The way I grew. When I came here, the people, the energy of the people are really beautiful people until they get upset.
Yep.
I hear, the Hawaiians are amazing. It's have so many relationships with so many different communities here, and that's what really made me fall in love with the land here. To find a place that is a little mellow, but the people are very giving.
It's probably also a big crossroad point of the Mediterranean, right? It sits pretty much. It's down at the end of Italy. It sits right down. It's just a crossroads of all the Mediterranean trade.
Every 200 years, we had a domination. We had French, we had Spanish, we had Arabians, we had Portuguese, we had Greeks, we had, the Romans, we had Saraceni, I don't know if you said English, basically an Arab culture. We coexist with them until they pushed it so hard that they got into a civil war with us and had to leave.
Interesting.
Because that's how the community is. The community in Naples is very giving. I don't know, you come eat in my house. But then, people push, and then they're like, they just turn devil. It's really interesting, how the dynamic.
What the other part I've been there through Italy quite a bit.
Yeah.
And the conversations, whether you're sitting down for a family meal early in the afternoon and you're ready to talk, or just sitting down on the steps of a random place, and you can pick an old timer, or even young timer for that matter, like share a bottle of wine. It's like you're sitting in a cafe and you pick up a conversation. The conversations are really easy, but I always thought it was just like, you can walk down those stone steps, like they're 1,000-year-old stone steps that have been walked down by so many, what you just said is so many conquerors of going back and forth and rising them down and up of the ashes, and people, and like they realize life is precious, I think, or just short, and just like take time for that conversation and live for that moment.
Have that. They really live day by day.
Yes.
They appreciate their life, I think, because they know that their life can be done in 1 second. Because we're all sitting on volcanoes.
Yeah.
And then they've been at war all their life. So they know, and it's really in the culture. That's why there is a lot of open arms. People you get into the Spanish district, which is, kind of the favelas of Naples. Yep. At the beginning, you couldn't go.
Mm-hmm.
You get in, you get robbed, you get beat up, whatever. Mm-hmm. Now they made it a tourist place, and people goes around, and they kind of evolve themselves into be accommodating, and then you see, how open they are and how giving they are. Obviously, until somebody push. And it makes a big difference. And I feel the similarity here because the people here. I always had amazing experience in Hawaii. Everywhere I was in 30 years. With people that I met, people that interact with, real, Hawaiians, or people that, they were born and raised here. And it's really, it really caught my attention. It's like, wow, there's a lot of similarity. You need to navigate, the place.
Yes.
And some people don't understand it. I feel Maui is a place that people comes, and the island needs to accept you, like the energy of the island itself. The spirit of the place need to accept you and allow you to be here.
There's plenty of people have been spit out.
Right? Right? Oh, I can't make anything up, and I can't. He said, they just don't give themselves, they don't open themselves to the place and to the people, and they're always I remember I probably never had troubles with anyone. You know, like a lot of people that I know, though, you know, they have tons of troubles here.
Yep.
You know, and I think it comes from respect, from way of living, from the way you connect one another, which is for me is very, very important, because I mean, in the end, we're all humans. All the rest that is around us, business and defense and whatever, surfing or whatever other things, it's amazing. But in the end, we're all humans on the same level.
Yep.
And I want to recognize myself, and I want to talk to you as not because of what you do, but because of who you are.
Yep.
And it takes a while to get there, I think.
Everybody poops. Your poop stinks too.
Exactly.
I just use that expression for another one. I'm not going to name the name, but he was somebody that I fanboyed over, and he's a pretty large tech lord.
Yeah.
And I finally shook his hand, and it was the softest little limp handshake. It was like shaking my wife's hand. I was like, "Oh man, you're just a man!" Like I just had him up on this pedestal.
It's the handshake is really there's a lot of meaning.
There's a lot of there's a lot of communication that happens.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy was so cerebral and his accomplished,
I don't mean it's a judgment.
Yeah,
you know, but I mean as the way you communicate and you put yourself.
Yes.
You know? It's really I don't want to say it's like, oh yeah, that's how I am, but it makes a difference, especially, you know, like when you start, you know, when you meet people for the first time, you know, it's pretty interesting. Yeah.
Well, where else could we go with this?
Oh, you tell me. I'm here. Let's talk about more.
We started going down the foil route. Where's foils for you? Because foils is one of the most amazing.
Yeah.
It's like I see foils now as the pinnacle of all the ocean sports. Mm-hmm. And now you're seeing it in the America's Cup, the windsurfers, the kiters, they are all up there, and you're really harnessing a chunk of energy that was very untapped, and it's such the way that it moves. You're getting pushed with gravity. It's like you're right with that wave.
I don't know if you get pushed. I think you're
harnessing that
symphony with the ocean.
Symphony.
Symphony.
Harmony
with the ocean. Thanks, because my 30 years here, I'm still Italian.
Yeah.
and I think is really, you have to be with the wave, with the ocean. But same for surfing, windsurfing. But I think hydrofoiling is even more.
Yeah.
Because it comes, I mean, you are on this wave. Let's say you can ride an infinite wave. Mm-hmm. Because I don't see hydrofoiling for waves and surfing. I don't see hydrofoiling in surfing spot. I mean, it's useless.
Yeah.
You know, there is so many untapped locations where you can hydrofoil, and I feel that, and then the open ocean, like, for example, like to do the, M2O, the Molokai Oahu, or other downwinds, from Maliko to Hawaii, any other locations. That one, the beginning is really hard. I'm not good at it, Oh, they've been pushing me to go. You gotta go. I was like, yeah, this one. And I don't think it's a push. I think it goes with the energy. Once you're up, I mean, the energy of the ocean brings you wherever you have to go. Obviously, you need your skills to always be in the right spot on that soft wave and in the ocean that has that energy to move you forward. And then everything comes to the equipment. Everything has to be stiff, and the wing has to be that way, and the angle of attack has to be that way. You want more lift, you might compromise the speed a little bit, but you want more lift because it's easier to stay up on the foil. It's like, the front wings, if you're 0 degrees, you're like this, but the hydrofoil works like an airplane.
Yep.
So the front wing is like this, and let's say the rear wing goes like that, so it goes this way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you have all this balance that you have. So you have to find the right balance in between lift and drag. If you have too much lift, you probably create drag. If you don't have enough lift, you probably have to work a lot physically to keep the foil up. So it's all a balance in how you. That's why we do a lot of testing. I love to do a lot of testing with the wing foils or whatever, and we keep putting shims and shim the strut and do this and kind of movement to find what we think is going to work.
And it's right to the person though as well, right? It all depends to the stance and the weight.
Yeah, I'm very my way of testing, I'm very customer oriented, because in the end, Kai and all these other people, I don't work with Kai that much, but all the other people, the athletes, they're very specific.
Yep.
While the normal customer wants to have fun.
Yep.
So it's a thin line, because sometimes, I'm testing with someone really good and they're like, yeah, but this just doesn't have enough speed. I'm like, yeah, but for you and for me. But the normal customer, first of all, he gets a little scared.
Yep.
Because you're flying at 1 meter off the water.
Yep.
And it's a very weird feeling if you're wing foiling or if you're towing so I really want to give him the comfortability of hydrofoiling and the fun part. And then when you get to a certain level, like Kai used 10,000 different foils.
Yep.
Because he wants to progress, And, Ridge and Carlos, the hydrofoil company. And they're coming
But he's so sensitive too he can feel.
I remember when I was making some of the wings, and I was like, he was coming up after like 2 waves and just talked to me for half an hour. And I'm like, oh my God, I got to write it down.
Have you seen his journal?
Oh, yeah.
It's the most amazing, organized. Every session is a training session at the end of the day.
You should see, what he writes me, after the fins, or now we're making windsurfing fins that use these surfing fins on windsurf boards. That's what we're doing. We just change the base. And, we full on,
Wow.
writing. Yeah. But, it's amazing for him and it's amazing for me. It's like I learned a lot from him, and I hope, he learns a lot from me. Like because I try to stay on a lane to not just go all over the place. And he just draws me like here and then there. And I like it. I like that. Yeah, he makes me think. He makes me, he pushes me,
Yep.
and I'm very grateful for that.
Yep.
Because I have the chance to work with probably the best athlete, right now.
Yep.
That's, it's out there, and I have a lot to learn, Sure, I'm technical. I know how to do things, and I feel sometimes, this is not going to work. But, I do it because he pushed me to do it. And what I do, I just try to adjust it to what I think that, could be the best thing. And going back to the hydrofoils, it is an amazing tool.
Yeah.
And I think it will keep growing.
Where do you think it can go?
It's going to be like right now, I feel the wing foiling is extremely easy, but I think it will become easier because of the technology.
I thought the wing foiling with the wing was like the pinnacle of all the wind sports, because they had it was such a small piece of equipment. Mm-hmm. You went to neutrals quicker than all the other. You just dropped that backhand and now you're up there. And if anything, you can just let it blow behind you.
You've been foiling, you know that.
And I was like, it took me a second to figure out what to do with my hands. I had to go take a SUP.
You're a full-on surfer, so you need to, even if you know about the wind, you're a waterman, there's this thing in a way.
Well, I had to take the a stand-up board, 11-foot Nash, and that's where I learned the wing. And I've had to figure out how to tack just on that.
Yeah.
And I was actually going upwind with the stand-up board.
Yeah, perfect. But
I was like, there it is.
It makes a difference.
Yeah. Did a couple of downwinders, and that was like...
It makes a difference. And I like to do a lot of testing with the wing foil because it's easy and quick. And I know that there is, because the prone foil or the downwind is the way because you really feel it. But if I test with the wing, I just put my wing, neutral a lot of times.
Okay. So to finish that question, where do you think it's going though with the foil?
What I think is going to go where completely wide, like kite went. Everybody's going to do it. It's going to be more. Mm-hmm. For the first time in my life, I saw people doing it in my city off the road. We have a massive bay, and I was driving, and I was like, are you kidding me?
Because you can do it with lighter wind too, right? It's the least amount of resistance.
12, 13 knots, super light, and there were like 15 wing foilers out there. I never saw windsurfers.
When I got my surgery last year in March in San Francisco, my friend's house was up in Pacific Heights. Looked right down on Chrissy Field. That's all I saw the guys all day long. And I finally had to go down there, and I called Casey. It was actually a Sunday, and it was their swap meet day. It was the funniest scene. I me and my wife just walked around. I was on my crutches. I was like, let's just go walk around. And it was it's just a scene in the city of San Francisco, and it was just this water sport foil nerd. Everybody was on the foils now, and everybody had all the things, and they were trading all their different foils now.
And that's what is going. I think it's going to be a couple years of stall. Mm-hmm. Starting already in 23, now 24 is still going to be a little stall because everything went so fast. Grab some kite surfing market, grab a lot of the kite surfing market, grab some windsurfing market of the light wind type of stuff. People are learning. There is too many brands. Mm-hmm. Too many brands. everything is the same, the way I see it. Everything is just about my foil is better than yours because my graphic is red, your graphic is yellow, and mine is. But everything is made in the same factory, and it's in Asia. And I'm kind of look at that thing. It's about a couple of years. They have to do a lot of R&D, but I'm not releasing anything because I'm working on completely different things. I think that the technology is what will bring the hydrofoil to the next level. The weight, the stiffness, the materials you're using. Something that Asia is not ready. I don't think will be never ready because they're price point type of thing. And I have nothing against. I mean, I work in Asia since 25 years. It's all about the price. This how but if you do this, it's going to cost more money. And every type of materials that you use has to be bought in Europe or US if you want to go next level. Some of my fins, I don't have any. Not even the resin is from Asia. I get the resin from France. I get some of the carbon from the Italian manufacturers or from the Japanese supplier. And because, I work with Asian materials, they're okay. They're good. They're good quality, price quality. But if you want to really push the performance, you're going to have to. And I think that's where it's going. It's going where there's going to be a couple of years of stalling. Some brands, unfortunately, they're going to disappear. And there's a lot of interesting people coming to the business. People that know what they're doing. Engineers. Composite engineers that they get fascinated by the sport because all of a sudden, I think there is a brand that is a pumping foil that you can pump for miles. It's just a double wing and you just pump. And people are coming up. There's very interesting people. People are coming up with very.
I want to see who the person is going to set the Guinness Book of World Records for the longest one foil till you touch the water.
Yeah.
Like somebody's going to have to set that record. Like it's going to be one of those tidal bores or
yeah.
When you ever watch the wave models, when you see the periods move across, might even have to be a tidal wave or something like sit by the glacier. That there's a swell that's it's going to move 10 miles.
Yeah. And also, I think that what's going is the fact that you're producing in another continent is so far limit your possibilities of what you want to do because you have to plan a year ahead. And I'm doing something in the US, I'm doing something in Europe, something like that is so close and reactive. There's a lot of manufacturing in the US. And and I think that the ending point will be like someone will come up with a great idea, someone will come up with a facility, or someone will do it, or someone will have an idea.
Yep.
And I think that's when there's going to be a game changer, And I hope this podcast goes in about a year or 6-8 months.
I'll sit on it for you.
I'm just spilling a few things that maybe I shouldn't.
No, but that's where it's super fascinating where there's the production side of things, right? And then there's always the Formula One, or what would you call it? The open class.
It's Formula One. I call it like that. Also for the fins.
Right.
For example, I made a set for Kai the other day in like half day. What
the guys are racing on, whatever they're doing, the wing foil races or what Kai is doing at Jaws, that's the Formula One.
And I have a lot of customers that they come and they're like, oh yeah, I want the same that Kai is using. I'm like, you cannot. And it's him and Ian, I have to keep him advanced.
Yeah.
I have to give him advantages, for the competitions, for this, for that. It's like some other companies came with the fins similar to ours 7-8 years later because we really kept it, they're in production and stuff, but we kept the fins, we didn't make a lot of noise about it because, I don't know if it's, it's not on the financial side of the business, but the big wave stuff is particular. Yeah. And
well, I thank you for all the fins you've provided me for all my.
Oh, absolutely.
You're all my biggest waves of my life have all been on your fins, and that's one of the reasons I want to talk to you is that's integral to the riding waves is the fins.
Yeah, and the fins, it's a big for me. It's 50, as I said before, 50% of the boards. People don't pay attention. I see some people going to pay out here with Coromat polyester stuff, and they're like, "Oh my God, that's the biggest wipe out of my life." I'm like, dude.
I've seen guys go out there with flat fins still.
Yeah, but there's something about that. You know why the sides are flat, right? Because when we were foiling them, the sides, for the glass on, they were putting it on, and so it was easy to just have the cloth, so the fins were flat. And then we started experiencing the flat, it made it flat, but we have the leading edge going in, so we have a couple of tricks. Like
So there's pros and cons to a flat fin.
there is, well, you're gonna get, the board is really sticky. It's really like attached to the water.
Yeah.
So especially, when you change your rail, because when on a thruster, there's two fins working.
Yep.
On a quad, there's two fins working.
Yep.
Because when you do the turns, there's the two fins working, two are almost out.
Yep.
So they kind of have to be free. So you have, when you go, for example, you have an off the top, there's the two fins working, and the board gets sucked because they're basically the water, the foil side, that's the one working and just sucking compared to the symmetrical.
It's the exact opposite of what like an airplane is, right? Or the lift instead of this.
Yeah, because the airplane has to fly, so,
right. You
top.
you have the one that's distance, right? One's longer than the other, right?
Yeah.
So the one that's short, which one? The one that's shorter, the one that's longer creates the lift.
The profile.
Yeah, if you look at it, like if you look at an airplane wing or what you guys are doing, right? The top, if you measure that radius, one's going to be longer than the other, and that's what they always explain.
Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah,
because the one at the top, that molecule that starts here has to travel faster to meet the molecule at the other side, and it creates that separation is what creates that lift.
The lift. Yes. For the
I forget
fins,
which way it goes. It's one way or the other.
For the fins is different because you have, similar way, but you have 3 or 4 fins for surfing or windsurfing, or single fin, and the lift is created by. That's why that's why windsurfing is symmetrical, because both sides have to work.
Yeah.
For example, for surfing, we're making a lot of symmetrical side fins.
Yep.
50-50, or we go 60-40, or because of the speed. Windsurfing has to go out with the sail, and then when you're on the wave. Yeah, if you just riding waves, you can be on asymmetrical fins also windsurfing, but it's not that people ride waves only, especially customers. And for surfing, I feel that the 50-50 opened a door for board design. When we started making the 50-50 like 10 years ago, 15 years ago, the boards started to change.
It was what it explained to me.
Go faster.
Because what it was explained to me was that if the foil wasn't right, you're going so fast, it can't penetrate the water. The water starts becoming hard, right? And if whether it's too thick or the foil's wrong or it's too sticky, and then it's the water is literally pressing the fin out of the water, and then now you're getting all that air under the tail.
You need lift because your board. You want your board to be like, I don't want to say completely parallel to the water, but you want your board to be pretty balanced.
Yeah.
If you don't have enough lift, your board will ride like this.
Yep.
So sometimes you see people riding this way because they don't have enough lift especially with the Peahi board or Nazare, where they're kind of heavy. You need to create some lift. And I do a lot of stuff with the leading edges. So exactly what you're saying, I have pinchy leading edges, I have like rounder leading edges, depends about what they're riding. Outer specs, you want a more rounder because you go a little slower.
Mm-hmm.
So you want more kind of like glide and, for turn. Peahi Nazare is like, it's nuts. We were measuring speed with Kai's boards one time, 44, 46 miles per hour. I'm like,
wow.
Slow down, because it's a lot.
And it's actually, that's not even the real speed, right? Because there's actually water moving the other way, right?
The other way, exactly.
The hydrodynamics of...
True. Actually, you have a good point,
of water moving, of the wave and pressing and sucking. And
we were measuring with the GoPro and with the watch, and it was crazy. And, and that's, and then my anxiety level goes up. Yeah, like Mavericks, Ian had a massive... It was Maverick? Oh, no, it was Nazare. He had a massive wipeout,
Yeah.
And it was kind of a cavitation.
He kind of got in the air, though, on that one, though.
Yeah, but, it was cavitate. So I don't know what happened. I keep looking at the video, and I'm like, okay, try to understand. And we had so many conversations with Ian about that. And it happened.
You might have to do more kiteboarding without straps and learn how to stick the board into the wind.
Yeah. But the leading edge is very critical, as you were saying. I spend a lot of time. I have 3 steps of leading edge before the fins get out, go to the athlete.
Have you ever played with like the dimple fins? You ever seen the ones that are almost like a golf ball?
We used to make this with Kalama.
Mm-hmm.
It used to be called the Tomahawk in windsurfing, and then we put them on. Basically, with Dave, we made this template, and then we took this drill bit that and then we were making all these things on the fin. we're making fences and with Rush Randall. It was crazy times. And at the time, I didn't know. I mean, Dave said he was working, but I never. I know that there's that company that does it. You know, and it looks like there is this. The board is more attached to the water, but I never tried it.
That's something we should actually bring back. It was I used to sales rep for them back in the day, like 20 years ago. Was the speed fins? Do you ever remember those ones?
No, which one?
So the fin, the box was only on the front half of the fin.
Yes.
The back tail actually had flex to it. The back of the fin actually moved like a rudder. And they're a little bit flassy, and there's stiffer versions of it, and they had degrees of stiffness.
We made a lot of prototypes. I made some prototypes of the fin moving in the box and just the tail. There is something about that.
Like basically you're just cutting like halfway of the future box.
Yeah. But I mean, it's good at low speed. When you start to go fast, I'm not sure.
No, definitely not. Yeah.
Probably not. But it's there was an interesting time. I mean, that Ineos, the UK boat, they have this technology where basically change something on the wings. So and the trailing edge start to have that type of feeling. So adjusting the angle of attack.
Interesting.
Pretty crazy. I don't know.
It's almost like an airplane wing sliding out.
I don't know exactly.
Like
a
rudder.
Exactly how it works, but I have some friends that they're on Luna Rossa, they're and on the Italian boat, and they've been talking about. To me, it's a material. It's shapes according to the water. So they've been working on stuff like that, and because I confront myself with people that they're on a certain level and trying to learn from them. And they said that there's a couple of materials out there that they'll allow you to do that. But I wasn't able to find them. I think it's a completely different ballpark, from surfing.
Have you ever seen Terry Chun was making them on surfboards? I know Laird had them on some of his stand-up boards. And I've seen them on snowboards by Libtech, serrated edges of it's actually the board. It's not a fin though.
Yeah.
But it's basically a serrated edge. S-turn basically just goes down the edge, and there's something about the water flows off of that. That's the trippiest thing you've ever seen.
Angulo was making board with phasers. You remember the boards with the phasers? I mean, everything was working.
Yeah.
Mark was doing crazy things on the board. Josh, and so there is something about that. Why we're not doing it right now with the technology we have, I don't know. Maybe we should revisit it and just do it more. Because there was something to it.
Materials and time.
but also nowadays when you look at America's Cup, or you look at airplanes, or you look at boats, everything is pretty clean.
Yep.
So you don't see that much. I mean, you have a couple of there's this French designer that did these hydrofoils. They have the kind of like a the wing, how do you call it, of the whale. That is basically like that.
Yep. Takuma,
yeah, that brand. And we did some fins like this in 2000.
That's what the side of the boards actually look like.
Okay, so there is something to it.
Yeah.
And I remember, it was working, but it wasn't revolutionary, so we didn't do it. And I'm sure that I tried that with a good foil, and I'm sure that there is something to it. I don't know if it's a breakthrough revolution that could help people. I feel it's a 50-50 marketing. You know what I mean?
There's probably a marketing piece. You could probably start looking at all the different animals, like just looking at what nature's already designed it. Right? You go look at an ahi, how an ahi goes through the water.
I was just going there because I remember that
and their little sickles on the sides.
We were measuring the foils, with a template. There was these things with all these the things we were doing template with.
Yeah.
That you put it on and basically copy the template. I mean the shape of the the tail of the fish. We put it on. It was perfectly symmetrical. It was a Naka foil section, pretty much.
No way.
I'm not kidding. The draft was forward. Was about 25-28%. The tray obviously soft.
Yeah, but they're vertical, right? And they're
and the tail was thinner. The trailing edge was 0.4. It's a full on section. And it's one of the fastest fish, So I remember, that I was doing, we were doing that with Scott, with the guy that teach me how to do fins.
Amazing.
And copying, and trying, expanding it, for the size. But, for foils, hydrofoils or fins, the profiles make a huge difference,
Yeah.
And the profiles are all out there. Yeah, you can modify a little bit, but and then check it with the softwares and see, you know, lift, drag, and how they move. But I think that they're all there. They just need to be tested, you know. And you do the software test, but you have to put them in the water because some things that do in the software, that I tell you, they don't work in the water. Because we tried.
It's got to work on the bottom of a 30-footer.
The analysis was amazing. Go in the water, and that thing literally sucked. You know? So we know that, because at the beginning we're like, oh yeah, now we have the software. So I'm like, yeah, but it helps. You know, it helps you as an indication, because I can make more design and prototypes. You know, I make 10, for example, and I will analyze them, and I take 2. It helps for that. And I'm grateful to build the technology. I mean, it's pretty crazy. But then you got to go in the water, and then, you know, you got the pushback.
Yep. Amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we've touched on a lot of different subjects of energy. Yes. And you've from foiling to culturally to hydrodynamics. So core question, and I really wanted to ask you this one. So the core question of like what this podcast is about is digging into an expression of what the law of thermodynamics is. The law of thermodynamics states that energy can either be created or destroyed. It just gets passed on. It's a vibration passing on from one medium to the next. And wherever you look, there's a lot of different examples of it. And I kind of gave you what some mean to me. So what's a really cool one, or an important one, or interesting one, or something you've observed that means something to you?
For me, I believe, you know, I really believe in the energy connection. I really believe that we're made of energy.
Yes.
So we are putting all this energy out there, connecting with humans, connecting with the planet, connecting with being sustainable, you know, obviously. And for me, that's the thing that really drives my, you know, I'm a very energetic person. I'm a very social person. I connect with people, and I connect with the land, and I connect with the ocean. This is for me what energy is. And I believe, I mean, for me, surfing is not just getting a wave, or windsurf is just also be out there and enjoy their energy and, you know, soaking that type of environment, that energy into myself. Yep. And I come up with a smile. You know, I don't have to get the best waves, or, you know, as long as I'm out there and I'm, you know, if I'm on the south side, I look at the mountains, or if I'm at Okipa or Lanes, I look at something else, or, you know, have, you know, animals around, and I'm really connected to these things. It makes me extremely, extremely happy. Yep. And that's, for me, what we are. You know, we're humans. We have 30 million cells. Every cell is 1.2 volts. Yeah. We can, they put plugs up our ass. We might plug, you know, we power all Los Angeles. You know, we're very powerful beings, and that's for me where, you know, where I see how I see the energy, and I'm completely connected everywhere. I'm very present. I'm very like there, here. Mm-hmm. You know, I don't, and that's, it makes me. And I know I became like this in the last 10, 12 years. I gotta be honest with you. Before, it was more like all over the place. Now I'm more like direct, mm-hmm. and it makes a difference in my life. You know, to have discovered that.
That's beautiful. Thank you.
I mean,
thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I like it.
Well, that's a good way to end. But I want to just touch on one last little thing that you shared earlier, is meditation. In that part of it. So we talked to this before we went online. So. Yeah. Where does that meditation for you fit in?
That's when I started it 10 to 12 years ago. Is a part of my life, part of my daily routine, part of the way before, for example, I make a very easy example. You know, I learn how to not react to all the events that happen outside of mm-hmm. myself, and I'm still learning because, you know, nobody's perfect, and the only things that I'm in control is myself, and everything that happens around me, I have to live with, because I can't control it. And this for me was, you know, coming from that culture, Southern Italian, Naples, everything is rough, and I was always like, you know, I was always bombarded by things, I came here, I calmed it down, and then the last 12 years, I just went into meditation, and it literally changed my life. Back to the energy, and it's a daily routine. I do it in the morning. I did it actually before coming here.
Okay.
I do like 15 minutes just to clear my air, come in here and be present, be with you. And I do this a lot,
Awesome.
At least once or twice a day. Yeah. Yeah. Before going to bed, I'm teaching it to my daughter. My wife does it forever.
Mm-hmm.
At the beginning, I was teasing her. What are you doing with this thing?
I love it. I've done it. I do it every time after a workout. Like especially if I'm doing it by myself in my garage, and like if I have a really intense workout, I'll make sure I just sit down, turn the music off, sit cross-legged, get on the mat, and just listen and be present. Listen to the body.
The world of today pushes us to be constantly connected with the outside, and we're losing our contact with our inner self.
Yep.
And so we're like, we come in the morning, you have the phone, and you have this, you have that, you have that. Instead, we're bombarded from the outside. Mm-hmm. And if we don't really sit internally, we cannot deal with all these events. We have too much pressure. Look at now, I look 20 years ago. Life is totally different. I don't think it's age. I think it's just how the world is going. It's going too fast. All of a sudden you have a war over there, you have this happen over there, and then the pandemic, and then you have something, So you have to. I make a lot of effort, because before I was very influenced by all the things that happen around me. So
I love it. Thank you for sharing that, man.
Thank you for sure,
brother.
Grazie.
Grazie.
Thank you.
Prego.
Okay, let's go. Just get a plane ticket and let's go now.
Okay, deal. Game on. Thank you, mate. And we're done.